But right about now, we need to keep up with our conversation about labor laws if you're just joining in. And niko naye Advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Oduor Ibrahim, who is a partner at Oduor RA and Company Advocates. And he seems to be in love with media kwa sababu amekuwa ako pale kwenye media support unit of kwenye Kenya Union of Journalists. Now, trade unions, when we were starting, the word kept coming up. What is a trade union?
James, a trade union basically is an association of employees which is put together to advocate for the rights of employees and the welfare of employees. In a nutshell, that is it. I think that simple definition captures it. And of course, you know a lot of them. We have got the Kenya National Union of Teachers. We have got the Kudehas of this world. You have got, of course, the organization I also work for, Kenya Union of Journalists, is a trade union. And surely one of the oldest trade unions around. You have got the doctors trade union, the union of doctors and medical KMPDU. Yeah, of course you have got the association. So it can be as wide and as varied. And at this point also it's just important to make a distinction that there are associations that are trade unions and there are associations that are just societies. So and you'll find that societies also in some cases, whereas they take care of the rights and welfare of their members, but they don't have got that legal mandate to do that which trade unions do. It is important then to note that trade unions are anchored in law. They are anchored in the Constitution at Article 43, as we said while we are starting, and beyond that, they are anchored in a legislation called the Labor Relations Act. Labor Relations Act. So that is the legislation that sets out the framework for association of employees, associations of employers, and then how these social partners do their collective, they do their collective social work in terms of negotiating the rights and welfare of members. Now, perhaps also I should explain this, that beyond the trade unions, there is another tier that the law recognizes, which is called the umbrella unions. So umbrella unions would be like a union of unions, okay? Or for employers, an association of associations. And that's where the Federation of Kenya Employers comes in, and that's where KOTU, the central organization of trade unions, comes in. In Kenya, I remember there was a time when there was one that was also registered by Secretary General Sosion back then. I don't recall the name, but it was there. It seemed its vibrancy went down as soon as it arose. So currently, I think it's KOTU for the employees and FKE for the employers.
Umesema hiyo union was dead on arrival.
I don't know. Perhaps Secretary Sosion you should invite him here one day to explain what happened to his association. But just repeat the question that you had asked. I think I went off tangent in explaining trade unions. Repeat the question so that I come back to it.
Right. You were to explain what trade unions are.
Yes.
And I think that was satisfactory.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And now you mentioned that they fight for the rights of workers.
Yeah.
Does it mean that, because I knew if I have an issue with my employer, the courts are one avenue to go solve that. Maybe the courts will subject me to alternative justice systems or dispute resolution mechanisms. So today I'm learning that I could go the trade union way if I'm registered, that is.
Yes. So perhaps let me then explain how trade unions and employer organizations work. So in terms of advocating for the rights and welfare of their members, so the first level is through collective bargaining. So collective bargaining is where the organizations sit on a table and agree that these are going to be the minimum terms and conditions for work between you as an employer and in as far as it concerns our members. Okay? So that is the first level. In most cases, once these minimum terms and conditions are set out, then they are applicable to even people who are not members of those unions. Okay, so that if you come, let's say, let me use an example of Haki FM. Okay, assuming that Haki FM had a recognition with Kenya Union of Journalists, and which I urge that it should have. Assuming that Haki FM had a recognition with the Kenya Union of Journalists, okay, and James is a member of Kenya Union of Journalists, okay. So the terms and conditions that are negotiated between James and rather between the union and Haki FM would apply to James as a member of the union, okay. But because these are the minimum terms that have now been set for the organizations, even those who are non-members of the union will benefit from those terms, okay? They are going to benefit from those terms. Just an explanation around that is that then those people, because they are not, remember, members of the union pay something called subscription, okay? They pay something called subscription. That is the monthly pay that they make to keep the union running. And so the union does the work, for them. There are non-members who are going to benefit from these terms that have been set by the union. Where are they caught now? There's something called agency fee, which then they pay to the union. So that even though they are not members of the union, but because they are benefiting from the terms that have been set by the union, so long as they are within the job groups that are covered in whatever the union has agreed, then they pay agency fee. But I went off tangent. Let me come to the second way in which unions and employer organizations advocate for members' rights. So the second now is where now they do constant communication, okay? So that whatever is happening in the organization, the union is constantly appraised, okay? If there is an issue that is emerging, anytime there is an issue that is emerging, then the union is able to speak on behalf of the employees. Let's say, for example, employees, and again, allow me to use Haki FM, employees at Haki FM feel that the air conditioning, and I like your air conditioning, by the way, it's nice, that the air conditioning has deteriorated, yeah? And they have raised it with the immediate supervisors, and it's not yet been solved, okay? Then the union takes it up and goes to the employer and says that, hey, you know what? Our members are complaining that the facility that you've given them have deteriorated. Can you sort this? Can you sort this out? You get it? The third level is now representation of individual members before the organization and even in court, okay? So if a member has an issue, an employment-related issue with the employer, the union takes it up, okay? The union can go to court on behalf of that employee and represent that employee in court. The union can lodge a case on behalf of that employee. It has got every right to do that. And also in terms of, and this normally happens, in cases of disciplinary proceedings, yeah? Then the union, whenever there is an issue of, disciplinary nature that involves an employee, then a union official or what is called a shop floor official then is able to attend hearings to accompany that employee in those hearings. The vice versa also happens with employers' organizations. So that if employees are riotous and are unmanageable, and it's, say, an industry-wide thing, then the employers' organizations can come and talk to officials of the trade unions on behalf of those employer on behalf of those employers. Those employer organizations can also go to court on behalf of those employers to articulate the issue that is affecting their member organizations. So those are the levels. I know there could be more, but top of my head, those are those levels.
Could there be a possibility whereby an employee or a worker goes to a trade union, a respective trade union, and says, my rights have been abused, please? That is the voice of Advocate of the High Court of Kenya, Oduor Ibrahim, a partner at Oduor RA and Company Advocates, talking to us about labor law. Kuna jambo hili ambalo unisumbua sana kwenye workplace. Mimi naamka tu natoka kwangu na kuja kazi. You know what has brought you to work. You know how to go about your work. But then a colleague is making it difficult for you. Maybe they just don't like you because of your gender. They don't like you maybe because of where you're coming from. Basically, they just are discriminating against you. What does labor law or labor laws say about discrimination at the workplace?
Ubaguzi.
Kabisa.
And so about discrimination and harassment, you started from Article 27 of the Constitution, which outlaws any form of discrimination, be they on basis of color, race, gender, sexual orientation, all those tribe, all those parameters of discrimination that you can imagine, including religion. It is, first of all, outlawed under Article 27, but even more importantly, it is statutorily outlawed. If you read the Employment Act at Section 5, there is an elaborate provision about discrimination that in providing employment, in conducting operations at workplace, you cannot discriminate against any employee. So that what that means is that all your employees are entitled to equal protection. And now this protection is not just protection of the laws of the Republic, but also of the regulations of the institution. And as you have correctly mentioned, a lot of times discrimination is connected to harassment. And you'll always, in a lot of times, find that the person who is being discriminative also applies elements of harassment. Now, and one pervasive one, and let's call it for what it is sexual harassment at workplace. And in our jurisdiction, it has become a matter of concern. And that's why it is recognized in law in two statutes. You have got the Employment Act recognizing the issue of harassment,